This is the Ready, Set Podcast. And here's your host, me, Joe Persinger. Ready, Set Podcast. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the podcast. I'm Joe Persinger, and I'm the most pragmatic and consistent motherfucker you will ever meet. It's definitely been one hell of a week. Jeez, what did we have? The DOJ come out this week and say that Hunter Biden is actually under investigation? Well, just like the last 4 years, the media has egg on its face again, and like I've been saying since this podcast started, I still can't figure out how the media expects us to lend them any credibility from here on out. And what's kind of funny to watch is, as far as this Hunter Biden thing goes, if you watch any of the news coverage on it, if you're even able to watch the news and see them talk about this, it's almost as if this is the first time they've ever heard about it. It's insane. I mean, it boggles the mind to watch the media literally treat everyone like they're a bunch of rubes. Now, I will say there are people that are rubes out there because there are literally people that voted for Biden through early voting, and then the Hunter Biden thing came out. It was the first time that they had heard about it. I would even say that when this came up during the election, of course it came up during the election, during the debates, when the Hunter Biden accusations came up during that first debate, I believe, maybe it was the third, or the second, which should have been the third, I believe that was the first time a lot of Americans heard about it. Again, I think we covered this in the last podcast where we said that most pollsters look at the average American voter as a 50-something white woman, suburban white woman. And again, they know all this stuff. My point is it's just insane to see the media act like, oh, well, look at this, look at these allegations. And then on top of that, they're downplaying them. We'll use the whataboutism. What if this was a Republican? Do you think they'd be so nonchalant about it? I don't think so. This is what Joe Biden does. When he does speeches, he likes to talk quietly. If you don't believe me, watch the one when he talks about Social Security. He thinks no one's listening for some reason. That's just been kind of the big news last week. I think after I did both podcasts, after I posted the last one on Friday, I think that broke midweek or something like that. And I wanted to integrate it into this podcast because it kind of has something to do with the last part of our general election coverage here. And then on top of that, I think on Saturday, the Supreme Court actually ruled on that Texas lawsuit, which had 17 other states sign on, and they were basically using a technicality to say, well, because Pennsylvania broke the rules, their votes should be, I guess they were trying to claim harm on their elections. Either way, if you're a libertarian, you're happy that the Supreme Court voted that one down. And maybe I'll get into that one a little later, but I want to jump into the last part of our general election coverage here. So before we do that, let's just get things started. Follow on our Ready Set Podcast Facebook page, our YouTube page. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and anywhere else you may find your podcast platforms. All right, I think we know what time it is. Are you ready? Set Podcast! All right, so we left off basically asking, was the Supreme Court basically going to save the Trump train? Was it going to, allow it to pull back here into Washington? As we learned on Saturday, no, they're not going to. And I mean, the way I had originally wrote this out was that I don't see the Supreme Court stepping in and subverting an election over a technicality. I try to look at both sides of the coin, and yeah, should we allow a technicality to disenfranchise legal votes? The obvious answer there is no. And like I alluded to earlier, this Texas case, it just kind of lacked, I guess what the legal term would be, standing. You can't, just from a libertarian perspective, if you're in Texas, you can't sue another sovereign state over, their internal business. That's again, if you watch Ben Shapiro, he kind of talks about this here and there. You don't want to use something, it's a double-edged sword, because you don't want to use something that can later in time be used against you. We call this the Harry Reid rule, or at least I do. And for those that don't understand what I'm talking about, Harry Reid, when he was the Senate majority leader during the Obama years, I think going up to about 2010, they were having issues getting Obama's judges passed through because I believe at the time the voting threshold was similar to what the filibuster is. You need at least 61 votes, roughly, and they couldn't reach that. The Senate was too divided. I believe there was only mid-50s Democrats. They definitely didn't have 61 votes, so they needed to pull Republicans over, and we all remember that time and place in our culture, and the Republicans weren't having it with Barack Obama. So what did Harry Reid do? He basically switched that rule to allow only 51 votes, bare majority, to get judges through the Senate. Now you fast forward, 6 years or so, when Trump gets elected, what's happening? Now the Republicans are just ramming these judges through, based on a rule Harry Reid had made. So I say again, be careful what you wish for. That sword that you're wielding might be used against you. And this is kind of what I'm talking about with the Supreme Court, and why I'm glad they voted 9-0 and not ruling for Texas. Because the last thing that we need in this country are other sovereign states suing other sovereign states. And I'll use the Ben Shapiro analogy that he used, which was, let's say Texas outlaws abortion. Now California can sit there and say, well, we're going to sue Texas over that law because now people are fleeing Texas to come here for abortions, and that's having detriments on our finances. Again, I'm not smart enough to sit there and go into exactly what the harm and standing would be, but we get what I'm trying to say here. That is very unlibertarian. I kind of look at it like this. What you do in your house is your business. The last thing that you want to start doing is setting a rule that allows you to start regulating what your neighbors are doing across the street or right next to you. Now, it's one thing if they have a loud-ass party and they're blaring music at 2 in the morning. I mean, you can regulate that. There's some give and take there. You just better hope that your state doesn't have a legal firework law in place. It's a little shot at my neighbors for their July 4th activities a few years ago, this year, and 3 years prior. Moving on. The Supreme Court is they're not gonna push this through for Trump, and rightfully so. So this begs the question, shouldn't have Trump wielded his power earlier this year, threatening to sue or leverage states who dabble in this chicanery? Mail-in voting, changing the laws willy-nilly. But he didn't. And the door was left open for this fraud to happen. Just enough for these states to ram through these democracy-killing policies. This whole process, this whole election process, is about trust. And state leaders who are Democrats in some of these states are showing you why they can't be trusted. So it's just unfortunate that politics have devolved into this zero-sum sports game. And, I don't want to live in a country where the other half of the population is pushing other policies without compromise or anything from the other side. That's tyrannical democracy, and it's why we have a constitutional republic. And you're kind of starting to see this exact phraseology in politics, and I'm referring here to AOC. There was a soundbite that she put out recently that basically talks about how she wants the House, and I'm assuming the Senate as well, to have such a majority that compromise doesn't even need to be had. These are the same people that for the last 4 years accused Trump of being an autocrat and a dictator. Now, let me ask you, in the situation that I just laid out, who sounds like the autocrat and the dictator? Some 30-year-old bubbly former bartender in a blue district in the Bronx. It's in that little district you have, lady, does not represent the rest of the country. So if you voted for Biden because you hate Trump, I got some news for you. You're the bad guy in the movie. I said it. If you voted for Biden because you don't like what Trump has been doing the last 4 years, and more importantly, you don't even give a crap about what Biden is proposing, what his son is doing, that he's lying to you again and again, Did the guy even bother to leave his basement to run for office? Like, if you hate Trump so much that was appealing, I mean, Joe Biden's whole campaign was, but Trump. And you vote for that, you're the bad guy. Because when I look at the Trump side, all the people voting for Trump, don't get me wrong, there are sycophants. There are sycophants on both sides. The sycophants on Biden's side are all these people that were screaming to the high heavens on January 17th, 2017, crying in the streets, wearing pussy hats, acting like little children who got their cookies taken away before they went to bed. These are the people who are voting for Joe Biden, not because they like his policies, they just hate Trump that much. That's why I say, if that is you, you're the bad guy in the movie. And if you voted for Biden and didn't bother to look into his past dealings, the 94 crime bill, his dealings in China, enriching his son, enriching his brother. Of course, there's no evidence of this yet. If there's a special prosecutor involved, we might be finding out soon. But like I said, if you didn't bother to do the research, if you don't know his policy platforms, you're the bad guy in the movie. Trump is going to lose in 2020. As we found out yesterday, the electors, I believe they informally voted, or formally voted, whatever. But here's why that's not bad news. Yes, it's bad that Trump is in office and that we have Joe Biden running, or who's going to be president. But let me deviate really quickly. I'm kind of intrigued here with this Georgia situation because my belief here is that Biden, ran as a progressive, as a leftist. I mean, Biden literally just licks his finger, puts it up in the air, and then goes with the wind. And, if you look at his career, you can see that. What I think is happening is what he wants to happen is that he wants Georgia to stay red so he can sit back and be like, Mitch McConnell, he's blocking everything I'm doing. There's nothing I can do. I can't pass Medicare for all. It can't get to my desk. But let's say Georgia flips blue. Now that would be horrible. Horrible. You'd be putting one socialist in the Senate and then some rich kid who doesn't know what the word adversity is, let alone means, because he just cries into his daddy's $100 bills every night when he doesn't win a House race. But, not winning a House race, I guess, makes you eligible to, run for the Senate. That's John Ossoff I'm talking about. So if those two fucks go into the Senate, it will be bad. However, what I would kind of be interested to watch is to see what Biden is going to do in that situation. Because what we are watching Biden doing right now is legacy building. He's just building his legacy. So, when that giant circle jerk around his casket during his, Washington paid funeral takes place in probably the next 5 to 10 years, honestly. Who knows? Maybe before that. We can all talk about how he was this wonderful, senator who became president, vice president who became president of the United States, blah, blah, diddy, blah. That's what he's doing right now. And obviously part of his legacy is, what he did as a president. And I don't really think he wants to go down as the guy that signed in all these policies that broke America. He's kind of boxed himself in, honestly. He's probably going to have to sign those in because maybe not. I mean, he's not running again. So he's not really beholden to any of these policies. So that's kind of what I'm interested to watch, to see him react to. Again, I guess it's like if Georgia flips blue, at least we'll have fun with that. If it doesn't, I think what's going to happen is he's going to sit there and blame Mitch McConnell for stopping, the policies that he wants to enact, which I really don't think he wants to enact. Now, going backwards, why is this great for us, I would say, that Trump will have to run again in 2024? We get to watch the whole process play out again. I mean, he's going to do a big announcement. I mean, maybe he's going to do it the day Biden inaugurated into office. I think that'd be a great move because this reminds me of like 2012. I don't remember when Hillary left the Secretary of State. It was somewhere maybe in the midterm, like 2014. Maybe it was before that. That one I don't know off the top of my head. Those years and months leading up to her campaign announcement, it was just, it was the worst kept secret in Washington. I don't think Trump, what's the point of that? Why are you going to pretend, are you going to run Donald Trump as private citizen Donald Trump? And he's like, I don't know, I'm still thinking about it. Like what the fuck is that? Just announce you're going to run on Inauguration Day, and then that puts that to bed, and then you could just start running in 2021, basically. We're all going to get treated to that. For all you leftists and Democrats out there that think Trump's going away after Inauguration Day, I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. Think about this. Campaign rallies are going to be back. And they could be bigger and better. If you think about it, it's kind of bittersweet. He's leaving in 2021, but we get treated to watching his reascension in possibly 4 more years. Now, one last thing before we get out of here. I know I'm kind of on time, but I wanted to get this done in about 15 minutes. So one last thing for all the people that are, I'm going to call you the nothing to see here, folks. One last thing for you. 4 years ago, it was, we need to count every vote. Russian collusion. We need a special investigator. He's a Russian puppet. I think Hillary was saying that in the first debate, whenever she was wearing white. I think that was the second one. And then this year, leading up to the election, it was, he's attempting to subvert the election by throwing away mailboxes. We must investigate. And then you fast forward to now, and it's like, nope, nothing to see here, folks. A fair and clean election. Look at these lawsuits. It's a coup against the United States. The people have spoken. Now, one corporate media news team is even interested in looking into these allegations. And, it's fine if they want to look at it and present the evidence to the American public, especially after watching them ignore the Hunter Biden investigation that was clearly happening. They just say, nope, nothing to see here. We're not even going to talk about it. Maybe there isn't anything to see there. Maybe they're right, but they should lay their case out. They should bring the facts to the American public. By you just standing back, especially with these last 4 years of misinformation, horrible reporting, opinions interjected into facts, the last thing they need to do is make the perception the reality by not reporting on this, not laying out the facts, and just saying, nothing to see here, folks. Joe Biden won. Their guy won. So no questions need to be asked, let alone answered. And Trump lost. But remember, if you're okay with this outcome and you want no questions answered, you're responsible for the death of democracy. And don't forget, you're the bad guy in the movie. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We will be back on Friday with a whole new show. The general election coverage is officially over. I know Ken out there is definitely clapping. He's probably giving me a standing ovation, not for my great investigative journalism, but because he doesn't have to listen to me talk about the election anymore. Let's see, do we have any business to go over here? Nope, just the usual. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Facebook, Ready Set Podcast Facebook page, the YouTube page. Like, follow, smash that shit into the ground. I think we're good. It was a great 4 years. Take care, folks. I'll see you on Friday, you fucks. Oh, and before I forget, I'm the most pragmatic and consistent motherfucker you'll ever meet. I'm Joe Persinger. Thanks for listening to the Ready Set Podcast. Check us out next week, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter and look for us on our YouTube channel. Ready Set Podcast.